What if I told you that the thing blocking your manifestations isn't doubt, fear, or lack of faith? What if it's something far more subtle, ingrained and unconscious? What if it's about your identity? And when I say identity, I'm not talking about your obvious labels like age, gender, or occupation. I'm talking about the deeper narratives you tell yourself about who you are at your core. The consistent stories you feed yourself about your abilities, limitations, desires, and fears. We are creatures of habit. We live within the confines of our own self-imposed cages. Like, I'm just not good at relationships, or I'm too anxious to speak up at work, or I've always been overweight, so there's no point trying to lose it. And the scary part is that these limiting beliefs often go unquestioned. They quietly color our perceptions, shape our decisions, and determine our outcomes. They become our identity, our self-concept, which then guides how we think, feel, and act. And since our outer world reflects our inner world, these limiting identities leak into our reality. Like water seeping through a dam, they undermine our desires and stall our progress. And that's no coincidence. This is Ego Edit, where we explore why we do what we do, and engineer our minds to work in our favor. Because every interesting idea has a grain of truth to it. Today, let's explore how our self-concept can unintentionally block our manifestations. Have you ever noticed patterns in your life? Do you keep attracting the same type of person over and over again, or the same kinds of problems or conflicts? Why your best efforts sometimes seem futile against a backdrop of repeating patterns? Well, the answer may lie not in external circumstances, but internal narratives. It's not that you aren't trying hard enough, or that you lack faith. It's that you may be working with, not against, the very forces holding you back. Welcome to the fascinating world of identity and its influence on manifestation. Get ready to delve deep, challenge assumptions, and discover a whole new way to approach self-improvement, abundance, and the life of your dreams. Sometimes in life, despite our best intentions and efforts, things just don't pan out the way we want. You set a goal, maybe about losing weight, finding love, or finding a new job to improve your career. You get excited, motivated, and determined to make it happen. You take action, stick to a diet, join a gym, work extra hours, and pour your heart into it. Yet somehow things don't unfold as planned. Maybe you found yourself slipping back into old habits, feeling overwhelmed and eventually giving up on your goals. On the surface, it might seem like you failed because of things like lack of discipline, procrastination, or negative thinking. But what if there's something more at play, something deeper and more subtle? What if the real culprit was your identity? You see, we humans tend to operate within the confines of our own self-imposed boxes, mental frameworks that we build over time based on our past experiences, upbringing, and social conditioning. These boxes define who we think we are, our strengths and weaknesses, our likes and dislikes, our successes and failures. And the problem arises when these mental frameworks, these identities begin to limit our possibilities and hold us back from achieving our goals. Consider the example of someone who has struggled with weight loss in the past. Despite countless attempts at dieting and exercise, they still find themselves constantly reverting to old habits. It can be disheartening and discouraging, leading to feelings of frustration, self-blame, and even despair. But what if instead of focusing on the external factors like food choices or workout routines, we turn our attention inward and examine the role of identity? In this case, the real obstacle might be a hidden belief, like I'm just not good at exercise or I'm not a disciplined person. These subconscious beliefs form the basis of identity and serve as guiding principles that dictate our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Since the person trying to lose weight sees themselves as someone who struggles with weight loss, they automatically behave in ways that align with that identity. The thoughts shape how the person perceives themselves, their capabilities, and their limitations. This leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy. They may skip workouts, indulge in unhealthy foods, or simply give up when they gain a few extra pounds. These unwanted actions end up reinforcing the initial belief, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. In essence, the person becomes trapped in a loop of self-imposed limitations, all because of a self-concept they never stopped to analyze. And this is not just an isolated example. We all have our own unique identities shaped by our individual experiences and societal influences. These identities may manifest in various aspects of our lives, affecting our relationships, careers, finances, and happiness. But by understanding the profound impact of identity on our lives, we can begin to break free from the confines of our self-imposed cages and rewrite our own narratives. It's not about denying our past or pretending to be someone we're not. It's about recognizing the power of our identity, embracing the parts that serve us and transforming the parts that hold us back. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight, but with conscious effort, self-awareness, and a willingness to grow, we can mold our identity into a force that propels us forward towards our dreams and aspirations. So, how do you begin interrupting the identity loop? First, identify a recurring pattern that you're tired of repeating, like a relationship, a job result, a relational trigger. Then ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about that pattern? It might be something like, I never get respected, I don't feel safe, or I'm not the creative type. That story is likely your self-concept talking. Self-concepts are deeply embedded cognitive structures that become default filters for interpreting your world. This often forms through relationships, social roles, and culturally shaped ideals, and because they operate automatically, they become invisible. Naming the self-concept narrative brings the unconscious to light, which is the first step. Then, begin embodying a new identity, not through manifesting the external, but by behavioral and emotional rehearsal. If you're shifting toward creative professional, do creative work daily. Write something, create visuals, network with creators, even if it's uncomfortable. The repetition starts priming your subconscious system. This taps into what neuroscientists call experience-dependent plasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through consistent exposure to new input. The more you use the neural circuits associated with your new identity by acting, thinking, and responding as if it were already true, the more those circuits strengthen. Behavioral rehearsal, then, is not wishful thinking. It's neurological training. Third, use confirmation bias strategically. Notice when you get insight, hear praise, or do something related to the new identity. Say it verbally. This highlights it in your internal narrative and rewires how the brain filters evidence. When you begin consciously affirming new evidence, you're not just thinking positively, you're manually adjusting what your brain considers relevant. Fourth, anchor identity through emotional integration. If a part of you believes I'm still cynical, you may need to feel the new identity emotionally. Visualization scripts that include emotional detail, embodiment sessions, or rituals that reinforce the new schema can help. Research in effective neuroscience shows that emotional memory is more sticky than verbal memory. This happens because the amygdala, the brain's emotional tagging system, stores emotional associations that can override logic. Lastly, consistency. Neuroplastic changes take time. A few weeks of inconsistent effort just won't be enough to override years of existing programming. Psychologist Donald Hebb famously said, "Neurons that fire together wire together." It takes hundreds of repetitions to make a new neural pattern dominant. Small daily repetition, like mindset, behavior, emotional triggers, and evidence scanning, gradually rewires the brain to align with your new self-concept. This is why identity change isn't a single moment of inspiration. It's a process of deliberate reinforcement. You're literally pruning old connections and growing new ones. It's like changing your brain's default settings. So remember, if you ever want something deeply and feel stuck, pause and look at the person doing the wanting. Are they aligned with what they say they want? Because all behavior is driven by your identity. And when your identity aligns with your desire, your actions take shape with less internal resistance. You manifest who you are, not just what you want. So step into the version of yourself that is already living it. This is Ego Edit, and this is only the beginning. Until next time.